Well, did the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, commit a war crime when he allegedly ordered the secondary strike on shipwrecked civilians? They destroyed the boat, and then, according to reports from the Washington Post, the Intercept, and others, that Hegseth said that Hegseth ordered there to be another strike to kill those in the water. Now, initially, the White House denied that Hegseth was even aware of the attack at all. Then that kind of fell apart. They had to kind of backtrack on that when video emerged from Fox News showing Hegseth live on television, admitting that he watched the whole thing live. Watch.
So the president is sending a message to other cartels, right?
A very clear one. I can tell you that was definitely not artificial intelligence. I watched it live. We knew exactly who was in that boat. We knew exactly what they were doing, and we knew exactly who they represented. And that was Tren de Aragua, a narco-terrorist organization designated by the United States, trying to poison our country with illicit drugs.
Okay, so knew exactly who was on the boat, knew everything about it, watched it live. No problems in seeing it at all. So that was then. This is now. Today, Hegseth was asked about it during the president's cabinet meeting. Here he was. His response said, this whole story is just fake news. Watch.
We're proud to do it.
So you didn't see any survivors, to be clear, after that first strike? You personally?
I did not personally see survivors, but I stand, because the thing was on fire. It was exploded in fire or smoke. You can't see anything. You got digital. This is called the fog of war. This is what you in the press don't understand. You sit in your air-conditioned offices or up on Capitol Hill and you nitpick and you plant fake stories in the Washington Post about kill everybody, phrases on anonymous sources not based in anything, not based in any truth at all. And then you want to throw out really irresponsible terms about American heroes, about the judgment that they made. I wrote a whole book on this topic because of what politicians and the press does to warfighters.
So now I saw everything. Now there's the fog of war, and we couldn't see anything because it was all smoky and fiery. And he said digital at one point. I don't know what that meant. Anyway, we wanted to ask Judge Andrew Napolitano about this, the host of Judging Freedom, who knows more about the law than just about anyone I know, and to help us wrangle this question, is this a war crime? Judge, great to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm smiling a little bit because I think your audience knows that, but the show on which he appeared, Fox and Friends, was from time to time hosted by him, by you, and by me. Right. I mean, as Yogi Berra said when he learned the mayor of Dublin was a Jew only in America. I mean, this is just
it's crazy.
Too much. But
yeah, it's got to feel weird, right? I mean, so here we are talking about someone that we used to work with, but, the news is the news, and trying to sift through the, I have no agenda on this at all.
Unfortunately for him and for the people in the boats who are dead, he has directed the military to engage in war crimes. Now, you are asking me, so we are clear, if it is a war crime that he ordered, if he did order, the killing of the two survivors. The short answer is yes. The longer answer is it's a war crime to attack the boats, period. And again, a war crime to kill the survivors. The boats and the people on them, even if they're doing what he says they're doing, which is transporting illegal drugs, A, they're in international waters, B, they are speedboats with a maximum distance of 50 to 60 miles, C, they're 1,500 miles from the United States. Does the United States have the legal ability to stop a boat in international waters? Absolutely not. It would need to wait until these boats reached what the U.S. claims, which is the most that any country claims, the 12-mile limit. Some countries claim 2, some countries claim 3, some countries claim 12. I'll give you the 12. But outside that 12-mile limit, stopping a boat on the high seas is an act of piracy. That's not me. That's 3 treaties that the United States has signed. If the Defense Department, which is not engaged in law enforcement, but if it is because the president told them to be, is convinced that these people are transporting drugs to the United States, they must wait until those drugs get into international waters and then stop the boats. If the boats engage in violence during the act of stopping, then of course the people doing the stopping, whether it's the Navy or the Coast Guard, can engage in violence back. but waging war, using instruments of war in international waters against people who are not engaged in violence is a federal crime. If a crime from the state in which it was ordered, so I don't know where Pete Hegseth was, probably Virginia, which is where the Pentagon is at the time he issued these orders. It gives rise to prosecution in the United States. There's no statute of limitations for murder. It gives prosecution, rise to prosecution in the countries where the victims are from, and it gives rise to prosecution in international courts in The Hague. These are not even close calls.
So there's no ambiguity at all. Like, you're not on the fence about this at all.
No, there's no ambiguity. If they had weapons and they were shooting at the drones or the missiles or the helicopters that were following them, that would be a different story. But where there is no weaponry being waged at the United States has no legal authority to kill, no matter what the president calls them. I mean, this phrase narco-terrorists, Clayton, is a political phrase. It's not a legal phrase. There's no definition of it or use of it in American law. Simply labeling people by a word that sounds terrible. Admittedly, it does sound terrible, narco-terrorist. Labeling them that does not create any additional extra constitutional authority for the president to authorize the kills.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. I mean, because we were boogeymen scared into this Tren de Aragua, and I'll admit I maybe fell for it in the run up to the election. Tren de Aragua, they're everywhere. They're taking over apartment complexes. Turns out, not really, but in one particular area of Aurora, Colorado. But it wasn't like an epidemic. Really wanted to look at the Mexican drug cartels. Maybe that's a totally different issue you should be looking at. But Tren de Aragua was suddenly like everywhere. It's everywhere. They're coming to your house tonight. And I'll admit, I kind of fell for it. And so by that law, by this idea that they're not, why wouldn't we just have ICE grabbing their machine guns, going right down the street and just shooting at all of these Tren de Aragua guys right in the head? Wouldn't it be the same thing as bombing their boats in the waters?
It would be the same thing. I mean, if the police in Chicago or Denver or Newark witness a major drug transaction, can they kill the distributor? Of course not. Their job is to arrest the person, seize and secure the evidence, and bring that person and the evidence to prosecutors for prosecution. The same as the principle on the seas, except when you're in international waters, you have no authority to stop anybody for any reason unless they are firing at you. Then, of course, you can fire back. I was both laudatory and critical of the 6 members of Congress who made that famous or infamous, depending upon which side of the fence you're on, tape in which they said, you have a duty to disobey illegal orders. That is a correct and accurate statement of the law. The reason I was critical of them is when they were pressed on talk shows after they made that, they backed down. Well, what is an illegal order? Have you seen any illegal orders? They know damn well that an order to kill unarmed civilians is an illegal order for everybody involved. The Secretary of Defense, the admiral, to whomever the admiral communicated it, and whoever pulled the trigger. I know it's not a trigger, it's a button, but I'll use that phrase, whoever actually pulled the trigger. All of those people are implicated now in war crimes so long as they knew they were killing unarmed, non-violent civilians.
So you heard Hegseth there say that he watched the whole thing live. He saw it clearly. He knew everybody on the boat. He knew everything. And then you heard him today during the cabinet meeting saying, it was foggy. There's a lot of burning going on. I probably didn't see it. I did not see civilians.
I'm disappointed. And when I discussed this on air at Newsmax, I started by saying it gives me no pleasure to accuse someone that I worked with several days a week for 8 years, that I socialized with, whose now wife was actually my boss for a while at Fox. It gives me no joy to call him a war criminal. but the acts in which he engaged are clearly war crimes. And that answer he gave at the cabinet meeting was a non-answer that did nothing but attack the press for asking a question he didn't want to answer. However, when our friends and former colleagues at Fox and Friends asked him that question, he said, "Oh, yes, I watched the whole thing and I knew what I was doing." So which is it, Mr. Secretary?
Under the Department of Defense Law of War Manual, and you go to Section 18, specifically talks about members of the military saying no to these orders, having the ability to not move forward with illegal orders. But it also says specifically not firing upon shipwrecked individuals would be considered a war violation, a war crime. It's literally written in the Law of War Manual at the Pentagon.
Correct.
Like, you could
Correct.
not get more specific than that.
That is a manual whose job it is Pete's, Hegseth's, to enforce. He must know what's in there. Not only may you not shoot at the shipwrecked, but you have a duty to rescue the shipwrecked, even if you caused the shipwreck. That is as clear as day. Secretary Hegseth knew that. The Admiral must have known that. The SEAL Team 6 that actually followed the boat and pressed the buttons that caused the death of everybody on it first once and then second time must have known that as well. They all violated basic principles of the laws of war. They all violated federal law. And as I said, depending upon the state in which the Secretary and the Admiral were located at the time they made these decisions, they violated state law as well. This is not anything that's political. This is life and death. And innocent people, legally innocent, are being killed so that the administration can show how tough it is on drugs. Tough on drugs? Why did the president just pardon the biggest distributor of cocaine in the modern era today?
Right. It makes no sense. Well, and I think we've cut through the bullshit and the propaganda on this show that these people are no threat to the United States. If you really wanted to go after the drugs, you would, of course, be looking at multiple other countries, but thousands of miles away. These people are not getting into the United States. And if anything, we are facilitating it through our own CIA. So don't lie to us. We're not idiots. We can see right through this BS. But the Fox News audience, CNN, they all buy it because we're being told that they're an imminent threat to the United States. So under that idea, they're an imminent threat to the United States. President Trump has given the authority to his Secretary of War to protect the national sovereignty of the United States. That's what they will say. Is there any legal merit to that at all?
No, there's no legal merit to it at all. First of all, it's a law enforcement issue, and the military, under an 1876 law, but still valid law today, been enforced many times, is prohibited from engaging in law enforcement. And again, as I said, the president can label these people whatever he wants. His labeling of them does not give him authority to do something that the Constitution prohibits. The Constitution allows killing only under two circumstances. One, where Congress has declared war and our military is legally shooting at or attempting to kill the military of the country with which we are engaged in war. Two, where there's been due process, basically a fair jury trial with its attendant constitutional protections, result in guilt and the death penalty lawfully imposed. Those are the only circumstances under which the government can kill. The president deciding on his own, without a declaration of war, on his own, without any due process, that somebody is deserving of death. Well, that's what kings of England did. It's one of the reasons we have a constitution, to prevent that from ever happening.
Right. I mean, you can look at the list of grievances in the bottom of the Declaration of Independence, for crying out loud. Correct. And it points out exactly those things which we don't stand for. I'll get you out of here on this, Judge. I know you got to run, but I want to talk real quick just about who would adjudicate this. I mean, where would this, who's going to bring charges up for war crimes? Like, is it The Hague?
I think that Congress is going to engage in very aggressive investigations. I think Secretary Hegseth will be forced out of office, and his successor will file war crimes charges against everybody in the chain of command. As for Pete himself, he could be prosecuted. I don't know. That would really be up to the Department of Justice or a state in which he was located, like I said, Virginia. The statute of limitations on these things for murder, there's no statute of limitations. The president could pardon him. That, of course, does not relieve him from international prosecution in The Hague if he should ever go there, or prosecution in the courts of countries from which the victims came.
Yeah, it seems like these guys can skirt around all this stuff, and that's why people can continue to get away with this stuff. Unfortunately, Judge Andrew Napolitano, always great to see you. Thank you so much, my friend, for joining us on a difficult subject for sure.
It is a difficult subject, especially since we know the person involved. But thank you, Clayton. Give my best to Natalie and to your beautiful family.
Thank you so much, Judge. Always great to see you.